Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Ansony Sieh, the hour of politics. What we are doing today is an analysis on the Joseph Boakai-Unity Party CPP withdrawal. So we know there was this much advertised address to the nation. We were told that Mr. Boakai was ready and prepared to give a succinct, a comprehensive report to the Liberian people on his stewardship as head of the CPP. There were many hopes that came to us when we heard about this Marshall talk about address to the nation. One hope was that he was going to tell us how the CPP will hold and how they will be able to unite so that they will go into the election. We were hoping also that he would tell us about the primary, saying he's having to be the chairperson or has been the chairperson of the CPP. That was some people's expectation. But we also knew and have hope that he could just walk away, that the Unity Party could just walk away. And not to the surprise of many people, the Unity Party, through its political leader, Mr. Joseph Boakai, did announce the walking away of the of the Unity Party from the CPP. They said bye-bye to the CPP. The question is, why are they leaving? Well, they have their reasons for leaving. Hey, boy, I will call. I'm on a show. So sorry, guys. They have their reasons for leaving, but let us hear from the house's mouth, Joseph Boakai, as he delivered that much advertised and talk about or address to the nation that was intended for him to provide his stewardship as chairperson of the CPP. Listen.
This will be the second major press conference to be conducted at the new headquarters of the Unity Party. For months, many of you have been clamoring to listen to the standard bearer of the Unity Party speak on trending issues within the CPP and a definite position of the Unity Party. Today, we have gathered here to listen to Ambassador Joseph Boakai to provide account of his stewardship of the CPP and also give a definite position from the National Executive Committee of the Unity Party as to the way forward for the Unity Party in the CPP. I said definite because in our institution, the National Executive Committee, in the absence of the National Convention, is the highest decision-making body. And so, at this point in time, I'd like to ask all of you to please rise up as we welcome. Now, it is a press statement. There will be no question. Let me make that clear. To rise up as we welcome the standard bearer of the Unity Party, former Vice President Joseph Boakai, to deliver his statement.
Thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. Political leaders, members of the collaborating political party, our massive supporters, wherever they may be, sympathizers, the whole Nigeria. Many of you have been very concerned and even worried about the way the CPP, which are tutored a beacon of hope for Nigeria, have been embarrassed.
So, folks, I will pause it. I'm sure many of you, if you did not read the press statement, you must have listened to it. There is nothing much in there. I'm going to talk about the delivery, and I'm going to talk about the failures in there. So we were told that Mr. Boakai was going to address the nation to give account of his stewardship. And later on, we were told by Mo Ali, when the press statement started, the way forward for the opposition or Unity Party. You saw Mr. Boakai there. I have listened to Mr. Boakai delivering speeches and making statements and even interviews. I'm hastening to say this was not his best. The statement as was delivered by Mr. Boakai was very poor. They have raised the expectation that he was going to give an accurate, comprehensive report on his stewardship. Mr. Boakai delivered his statement within 5 minutes. As serious as the chaos that have been brewing in the CPP has been, the most experienced leader who many have looked up to be able to provide a sense of direction, could not give a statement befitting the seriousness of the crisis that has engulfed the CPP for over a year now. He came, and all he did was to give reasons, in my opinion, were just blames. He became a blamer in chief. He cited blames why the CPP cannot hold. Either Mr. Boakai at this time was not well. He slaughtered as he delivered his message. If you watch some other video, you see his hands were shivering. I am doing analysis, so I have to give you the context. This was a very poorly organized press statement, given the expectation that they had built. I was looking forward to a well-organized program that would speak to the seriousness of the crisis, that will also speak to the seriousness of the issues we have in our country. In that statement, Mr. Boakai did not make any mention, zero mention about what we are engulfed with as a country, politically, economically, the security issues in the country. Mr. Boakai was not interested in any of those things. All he did was to show blames, to narrate blames, and to propagate blames. Why? He, as a leader and his political party, are saying bye-bye to the CPP. What could be Mr. Boakai's reason? What could be the Unity Party's reason? They have their own reasons. Let us bring the reasons they cited. Reason number one, inability to mend broken relationship in the CPP. That is Mr. Boakai's reason. That is the Unity Party's reason, that They have tried. Boakai said he has tried as chairman of the CPP to mend the broken relationship, and it won't work. And so he is leaving. Reason number 2, framework document alteration. Mr. Boakai and the Unity Party are saying a framework document was altered. And because of that alteration, they cannot stay in the CPP. And in one of Unity Party's surrogates' words, what had held them together, there was a knife placed on it by Alexander Belende Cummings. Reason number 3, Cummings' failure to attend meetings to resolve issues. That was in Mr. Boakai's statement, that Mr. Cummings has consistently failed to attend meetings, and so it became impossible for him as chairman of the CPP to have the issues in the CPP resolved. So, is Mr. Boakai telling the truth? Did Mr. Boakai as chairman make some efforts to see the CPP resolved? Let's see what happened. So let's look at Chairman Boakai's effort. When Chairman Boakai took over on October 15, 2021, as chairman of the CPP, Mr. Boakai will call his first meeting. And what happened? Mr. Cummings did not attend. Fast forward, there was a National Advisory Committee meeting. Again, Mr. Cummings did not attend. Fast forward, the meeting that Mr. Cummings attended ended in confusion. There was noise about agenda being there, and Mr. Cummings walked away from that meeting for reason there was no agenda. It was that meeting after Mr. Cummings' departure, Mr. Boakai, Nyambli Kanka Lawrence, and Benny Nayire called a press conference in Mr. Cummings' absence. Fast forward, there was another meeting called by Mr. Boakai. This meeting was intended for a committee that was set up to probe into the FA alteration, FA meaning the framework document. In that meeting, Mr. Cummings did not show up. According to Mr. Boakai, the goal of that meeting, that of the committee, was to ask Mr. Cummings to accept responsibility that he authored the document, and that if he had agreed that he did author the document, that would have been the resolution of the conflict within the CPP, talking about the alteration of the framework document. So Mr. Boakai's solution to that conflict was Cummings needed to accept responsibility that he authored the document, and then that would be it. Now, Ure is one person that is also on record. Let Mr. Cummings apologize. I believe he said it in a BBC interview, and that will be it. And surrogates and other leaders in the Unity Party, and even in the Liberty Party, those who support Mr. Boakai, Nyambli and Dillon, all of them are saying Cummings need to accept responsibility, and that would have been the resolution because he wronged them by altering the framework document. So Mr. Boakai in his statement is saying these are the efforts that I made as a leader, and yet it became impossible to mend fences because Mr. Cummings became the trouble child, according to Mr. Boakai. Mr. Boakai again in his statement talk about or reference the much talk about Ghana trip. That meeting Cummings attended. According to Mr. Boakai, that was further effort on his part to reconcile the CPP. Cummings attended this one. So what happened? It said that something Mr. Boakai is looking for that he is not getting in all of this effort that he made. And because he did not get that which he has been wanting, hoping, and expecting, so it now became clear that it was time to walk out. So, folks, if you are following so succinctly, Mr. Boakai gave his reasons for leaving, and he also explained the efforts he made. And it became obvious that all these efforts Mr. Boakai is telling us that he has made were all intended for one thing and one thing only. At least he gave us the impression that that was meant to unite the CPP. And the main fact that that unity could not fall in place, he needed to leave. It's Mr. Boakai actually wanting something other than just the unity that he's telling us here. It's obvious, folks. Let us leave the surface and go to the issues. Mr. Boakai wants to be president. Mr. Boakai wants to be the leader of the CPP, the candidate of the CPP. Mr. Boakai has only one opponent in his quest to represent the CPP as a candidate. That person is Mr. Cummings. It is this Mr. Cummings that Mr. Boakai sees as a trouble child. It is this Mr. Cummings that Mr. Boakai is hesitant to go into a primary with for obvious reasons that I will tell you later on. So, are the efforts made by Mr. Boakai enough to walk away? And are the reasons cited by Mr. Boakai germane, reasonable enough to walk away? So let us go back to the CPP. What was the idea of the CPP? What was the main reasons? Let's get the main reason. What were the main reasons, to put it right, for which the CPPs were founded in the first place? Can they stick to the reason? So the CPP was founded. One of the reasons to make President we are a wanted president. But the entire idea and rationale of the CPP was, in order to defeat President Weah, you needed a strong opposition that will collaborate. In other words, you needed a collaboration. You needed a collaboration that will be strong, robust, and go against a popular president, George Weah. That was the idea. And that idea was tested. And that idea did prove that it worked. They had by-elections. The CPP won. So these were leaders that came together and crafted something that was sensible, that if we put together, we could be where. And that possibility was very strong. Number one, if you look at the composition of the CPP, you have Liberty Party that is predominant and most of the time gave most of the votes in Grand Bassa County, and we'll also get some vote from Riverses, from Bond County, from Mangibi County. That was Liberty Party. So Liberty Party being in that composition of the CPP, who have managed to see majority of the votes in those particular counties. And then you have Cummings from the Southeast. Because President Weah is not doing much enough, the Southeast has always been down. Even with their son being in the presidency, they are still struggling. And the fact that Cummings is from the Southeast, Cummings will have given them significant amount of vote because he's from the Southeast. That who have met that the CPP who have gotten substantial amount of vote from the CPP, from the Southeast. Then you have Mr. Boakai, who is more like from the northern part of Liberia, connected to Lofa and Strong there, connected to Cape County and other counties like Bapulu. So with Boakai's presence and people in the northern side supporting a unified CPP, and then fast forward coming to Monserrado County, one of the strongest, which have been the strongest hold, I can pull it that way, for the CDC, the CPP went held together and went to the by-election, whooped the CPP not only one, the CDC, not only one time, but twice, with a DeLong, a certified liar. The CPP did it. So if you look at the composition of the CPP were well positioned to have given President Weah that one-term presidency. The CPP had decided to have given President Weah if the CPP were to hold together. So that was something together, firm and strong, proven and tested to have worked. These leaders saw something meaningful, saw something sensible. It was tested, it worked. How then can you walk away from that which has proven to work? Now, Mr. Boakai went into the election of 2017. Mr. Boakai was defeated humiliatingly. Reasons given for his defeat: number one, he was not supported by the ANC. Number two, he did not have the support of the Liberty Party. Number three, he did not have all the support of his Unity Party. So let me just stick to the three. So if in 2017, you could not win because you did not have Liberty Party support, ANC support, and nearly all the support of the Unity Party, how can you now leave these people, these parties that you needed in 2017 that you did not win? How can you now have them in your midst and abandoning them now and thinking that you have a path to victory? So Mr. Boakai saw a path to victory in the CPP. So he came to the CPP. And because he had believed in that path with the CPP, Mr. Boakai, when he took over, he made a lot of promises. Let us go to the promises. Yet is Mr. Boakai speaking on October 15 when he was taking over the CPP, and he was speaking on October 15, 2021. Boakai was speaking. We will not betray our country. Your confidence will not be disappointed. Now I ask you, Mr. Boakai, now I ask you, fellow Liberians, is Mr. Boakai living by his own words here? He said, we will not betray our country. Your confidence will not be disappointed. He was talking about the covenant the Liberian people have put in the CPP. And that he, as a leader, will not betray his country for trusting the CPP that they have built. But Boakai is talking something different today. Number two, Mr. Boakai said, and I quote, the collaborating political party will be institutionalized under my watch. Mr. Boakai was speaking. Mr. Boakai, you made a promise to your countrymen To Liberians who were in despair and are still in despair, politically hopeless, economically vandalized, that you will have institutionalized the CPP, because the CPP has proven to be a possible path to political victory, Mr. Boakai. What has happened? Why are you leaving? So Mr. Boakai has failed to institutionalize the CPP. When you are institutionalized in an institution, that institution must have a mechanism for conflict resolution. Look, in every institution, there are mechanisms put into place to resolve conflicts. Conflict is part of human existence. Conflicts will never leave us. In fact, as I'm speaking, my tongue is having conflict with my teeth, but I'm managing it and I'm delivering for you. Leaders solve problems. That is why they are called leaders. Leaders don't just lead when there is honeymoon. Leaders lead when there are difficult situations. That's why they are called leaders. If all was always well, no one would need a leader. We will all chart our own courses. Mr. Boakai did not institutionalize the CPP. So what does the CPP framework say about how conflicts should be resolved when one arises? Did Mr. Boakai, as head of the CPP, use the mechanism articulated in the CPP framework for the resolution of conflicts? Did he do that? Has Mr. Boakai forgotten the CPP is a only path that has been proven for victory? Well, Mr. Boakai will not live his own words. He will chicken out. He will not institutionalize the CPP as he has promised his own party, his own countrymen. Mr. Boakai speaking again. When he was taking over, he was enthusiastic. He delivered his speech with brilliance during that time. Not the one he just gave. He was uninterested. It's like he never wanted to be there. Maybe our pap was not too well. So maybe let me be merciful here. Boakai speaking again. We will entrench our feet so deep that victory will be the only option. When we come to give analysis, we use the leader's own words. That is why even those who don't like us, they don't fight us. Because they know we are factual. And we use these leaders' own words to hold them accountable. Boakai speaking, we will entrench our feet so deep that victory, and by that victory, he meant the CPP victory, will be the only, you listen to that language, will be the only option. That is the Joseph Boakai I want to see. That is the Joseph Boakai the Liberian people want to see. Some people just utter words. Some of the words are written by other smart people anyway. Those words are not conceived by themselves. Some people. So, how will you entrench your feet so deep? Does Mr. Boakai entrench his feet so deep in finding resolution? Did Mr. Boakai entrench his feet so deep that a CPP victory will be the only option? These are just two men, folks. Two men. Ure is not running. Nyombli is not running. We are told Cummings, he's a new guy to the game. He does not have the numbers. He's a stranger in Liberian politics. He has no name recognition. All this politics is all about the fear that going to convention might not go down well or in the way of the Unity Party. All this is happening because there was this assumption that Cummings would celebrate being number 2 on the ticket. And that would be what he would go for. The CPP language is clear. Consensus, it did not work, it will not work. And then primary, oh, don't talk about primaries. We will do black voting, they said. Oh, Liberty Party is on our side, but then it will not hold. It will be divided. The Nyambli Dillon wing and the Musa Ability wing supporting Cummings. So mathematically, though they told us that Cummings has no power, but yet they won't go to the primary to go and compete with this political neophyte, the political nobody, the political stranger, this mighty, well-rounded Unity Party, this sophisticated Unity Party, this master of the art of politics and political workings, Unity Party, will not go into a primary with a political neophyte, a political stranger, a man of no political substance and relevance. They could not go to a primary with him. And so the option was just to capitalize on something and nail him to the cross, like Jesus Christ was being nailed. But let us continue with Mr. Boakai's promises. He did not only say that we will entrench our feet so deep that only victory, a CPP victory, will be the only option. He did not only say that. Mr. Boakai went on when he was taking over, inspiring hope, engendering trust in the Liberian people. Mr. Boakai will say to us, don't give boys men job to do. I love this one. Mr. Boakai was telling us, we have a man in the executive mansion called President George Manawia. He is a boy. He has no clue whatsoever what he's doing. And this boy was given a job that a man should be doing. This was a very hopeful Boakai, who was so determined to do everything for the CPP to hold, so that this job will be taken from this boy it was given to. So let us contrast that. It means Mr. Boakai is not a boy. He's a man. He can do man's job. A man's job is to resolve conflicts, to unite people, to provide a sense of direction. A man's job is to navigate issues on troubled waters and provide a pathway. A man's job is to compete in any process to win, especially in the political process. That's what a man will do by providing leadership, to be there when the times are tough. But it's like Mr. Boakai is not a leader who will be man enough to provide leadership. So we have a man in the executive mansion, Mr. Boakai. Are you sure of that? And you went on to tell us this boy who was making a one-term president, and in the only way is to entrench our feet so deep that victory will be the only option. Fast forward, and the biggest one of all, the greatest promise ever made to us. As though the one he said that we will institutionalize the CPP, that's not enough and powerful for him to live by. As though when Mr. Boakai said, we will not betray our country, your confidence will not be disappointed, is not enough. Mr. Boakai will go forth to say, we will entrench our feet so deep that victory with the CPP will be the only option. As those things are not enough, Mr. Boakai will say, you cannot give a man's job to a boy, and that boy will be made a one-term president. Even in his most disastrous, disappointing speech that he just gave, that did not give account of his stewardship as CP other than to whine, that did not give account in any shape and form, Mr. Boakai too, and again, will go on record to tell us, I have the track records of resolving issues. When I get to Morovia, the internal wranglings in the CPP will be resolved. That was Comrade Boakai speaking. Has the conflict been resolved? But the man who has the track record of resolving conflicts, oh, the low-hanging fruit, he will pick. Bye-bye, CPP. I'm out. Mr. Boakai cannot do a man's job to resolve the conflict in the CPP. Mr. Boakai will not fulfill his promises made to the Liberian people. Mr. Boakai will become the greatest disappointment in his lifetime to destroy the trust and hope and the aspiration of the Liberian people. Many people have trusted this CPP because Boakai, who has an impeccable name recognition in our country, was in it. And this is why he walks away from. So that points to how Mr. Boakai's handlers have been lying to us that he is a leader. Mr. Boakai has been tested, and he has failed the greatest test of his lifetime. When he was vice president, he was picked by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And so he just wants to pick his vice president. He does not want to fight for it. He does not want to compete. He wants to be picked as the chairperson of the CPP. I mean, as the standard bearer of the CPP. He does not want to compete for it. He's used to being picked. He will pick as Agriculture Minister. He will pick as head of LPMC. He was picked as head of LPRC. He was picked as head of Agriculture Ministry. In all his life, he has never competed for anything. And whenever he was picked to provide leadership at a particular place, he will not deliver. Mr. Boakai, in all fairness, has been a yes man and yes sir person, not leader. He has been a dignified, humble, and loyal follower. He follows brilliantly. He follows dutifully. Leadership is not in his DNA. This is the first time Mr. Boakai has been trusted with a political institution that he needed to provide the utmost insightful leadership and sense of direction. If you think I'm lying, let us hear from Mr. Boakai's son. He could not have been so eloquent. I like the guy. The guy is so eloquent that he speaks so boldly and so profoundly. Let us hear from him. Listen, folks.
Going to change. Joe Boakai has no fresh ideas. Joe Boakai is not able to run this country. He's a dead man walking. He's a dead man walking, and I cannot support a dead man walking.
Let's play that again, folks.
Not going to change. Joe Boakai has no fresh ideas. Joe Boakai is not able to run this country. He's a dead man walking. He's a dead man walking, and I cannot support a dead man walking.
So that is Mr. Boakai's number one propagandist. This is a guy who has made it his life to make Mr. Boakai's president. He is referring to Mr. Boakai that Mr. Boakai has no fresh ideas. Mr. Boakai is not able to run this country. He said that many years back. That was when the 2017 election was coming. That was when Mr. Boakai's now chief propagandist, the man who is on record for saying he has, what's the word he used? Rejuvenated and resurrected, if I can add one there, Mr. Boakai's, candidacy. He is on record. But he was on record then, I believe, when he said Mr. Boakai has no fresh ideas. Yes, Mr. Boakai is out of ideas. He has no fresh ideas whatsoever to provide leadership. And the one he said he's a dead man walking, that was offensive to Mr. Boakai. It was offensive to Mr. Boakai. I will not say that to Mr. Boakai, that he is a dead man walking. But who can we blame here? Can we blame this young man who uses his political mouth for bread, who trade his eloquence, for bread, for money? I don't fault him. He's a propagandist. There are propagandists around the world who get paid. Just accept the fact that you are a propagandist who trades support for bread. So we can't blame him. We blame Mr. Boakai. How dare you look at and accept a support from somebody who disrespected you and cast so much expression on you that you are a dead man walking? He disrespected you to the core. He had no respect whatsoever for Mr. Boakai's being an elder in the country. This elder of our nation was disrespected. But because this elder does not have the mind of his own, he lacks leadership, insightful leadership. He's not a visionary. He will accept a support from a propagandist who cannot be trusted. He will accept a support from him because he does not have the wherewithal and the fortitude to provide leadership for his own victory. He is relying on individuals with no credibility. And these are the people that are making decisions for him. It was Custer's idea that Boakai should walk away from the CPP. He was one of the progenitor of that idea. And from day one, he has been saying that Unity Party needs to walk out. There's no point. Joseph Boakai should get out. That was not Boakai's idea. We heard Boakai when he said we will institutionalize the CPP. We heard Boakai that the CPP, when Boakai said the CPP is the only option to victory. We heard Boakai. This Boakai we're hearing now, that is not the Boakai that you know. So let us do this too. Mr. Boakai said, and I quote, "My eloquent silence in the face of these internal wranglings and exchanges strengthens my courage." What happened to his eloquent silence? What is the strength? What is the courage to be able to resolve the issue as the leader? Mr. Boakai went on to say, mainly defending our positions without a deep sense of collectivity only makes us weaker. What that means is, Mr. Boakai was saying we need to be collective. We need to be collective. When I'm defending my side and you are defending your side, we are dividing the CPP. It only makes us weaker. When you go your separate way and I go my separate way, it makes us weaker. It takes away the possibility of a victory. And so, folks, the statement that was issued by Mr. Boakai was a disappointment that not only destroyed the trust and the hope and aspiration of the Liberian people. If anyone is to benefit from the chaos that these leaders brought on us, if anyone is to benefit, that person is President George Manneh Weah. President Weah was threatened by a united CPP. Boakai should have known that. Cummings too should know that. Ure should know that. Mr. Boakai is being pulled by Ure. As you saw in the press conference, Ure was comfortably seated. Nyongli Kaka Lawrence was comfortably seated. These leaders have done the greatest disservice to Liberians who have poured their trust in the CPP. And that's why I don't support these politicians. Supporting a politician is a waste of time. It's a waste of time for me. Let me speak for myself. It's a waste of time for me. They will always let you down. And that is why supporting them is just a waste of time. We are the man he called boy. Boakai sat there and Ure took a case to President Weah's court, if I can pull it that way. Boakai said Weah is a boy. And then Ure, who is supporting him, Boakai, he sits idly by and allow Ure to take a case to that boy's court. Let me give you the analogy and maybe you understand it better. I am the father of the home. I have my son and I have my neighbor. I told my son that my neighbor is a boy. He's irresponsible. He cannot be trusted. He's an irresponsible neighbor. He does not have the ability to provide any sense of direction. He's a reckless neighbor. And yet, I sit idly by, and my son will carry a complaint to that neighbor I told him about, who has no ability in any shape and form to resolve or solve any problem. Not only did I allow my son to do so, I joined my son to go in front of that neighbor that I have classified as irresponsible, reckless, and an untrained boy. And I'm expecting a resolution from that irresponsible neighbor. That is what Mr. Boakai is doing. How does that make me to look in front of my son? That does that even make me to look in front of my family? After I have warned them about this boy is irresponsible, and now I'm in this man's house and he is judging my case. Lord have mercy. What I'm telling you is Mr. Boakai now, from what being reported, is a criminal witness, just as Mr. Cummings is a criminal defendant. in a case that was taken to the court by Ure, an insignificant political actor who has not been able to win a single 1% in our elections. This is the man who decides for Boakai. Mr. Boakai, who has something politically in terms of numbers, cannot say to Ure, "Look, Ure, what do you bring to the table? Your 1%, your 0.5%, it can't get me anywhere." This is Boakai and the Unity Party who were whining, coming in support us that we didn't win. So why can't you resolve this issue since Mr. Boakai, you say you have the track record of resolving issues, so that you can go to the primary, beat Kami, saying you have the numbers, saying your political party is well-run and sophisticated, is the biggest party. Well, you can't beat him. Because Kami said, whatever the outcome will be, I'm going to support it. The reason is Mr. Boakai has never competed for anything in his life. He hates competition. So he's leaving. He's saying bye-bye to the CPP. And what is he doing? He is now going to form his own collaboration. A collaboration now that will ordain, baptize, and coronate him as the head. We are told a CUP, collaboration of Unity Party, making things simple for Boakai. Mr. Boakai is not a competitor. The last time he competed against President Weah, it was a disaster. And since Mr. Boakai was not successful in that election, Mr. Boakai sat idly by all along. Mr. Boakai has a huge deficiency, which is money. Mr. Boakai will tell you that when you meet him for the first time. Where do you get money from? From Ure? Mr. Boakai, out of his sudden, does not care about Ure's record. And this Ure guy is like Boakai. That is why they are like working together. Ure is Ure today because of Charles Taylor. Ure runs away from Charles Taylor. He established a political party. Why can't Ure, if Ure is a leader, why can't Ure stay in the MPP? Why he can't be the head of the MPP? He benefited from the MPP immensely, more than most people who were in the MPP. Ali with the MPP, Ure political standing will grow. Unlike Ure, Joel Howard Taylor stay in the MPP. Joel Howard Taylor carries the name Taylor. Joel Howard Taylor won election 2 times with the name Taylor, with the MPP. The Ure guy is not a serious political actor. He's a classic dirty player for his own political aggrandizement. That is Ure. His political party is a club. It's not a political party. That is why Mr. Boakai is betting on. If you look at political parties in Liberia, the ones that have little clout, that we are the CDC, the Unity Party, the Liberty Party, and finally the ANC. These are the 4 political parties that have little clout in our country. Now, any collaboration, in my judgment, that is not composed of the ANC, the Liberty Party, and the Unity Party is not a strong collaboration. For example, we have the Rainbow Coalition. The Rainbow Coalition is a political, it's a collaboration in Liberia. What do you hear about them? Nothing. Practically dead. They don't say anything. You know why? Because those parties that make the Rainbow Coalition, they have no political substance in Liberia. These are parties that are in individual bags and with few people just sitting idly by, so that when there is a government inclusion, they will be factored into government. So if you are a serious political mind in Liberia and you want to beat the incumbent, that collaboration, if it is short of either the Unity Party, the Liberty Party, and the ANC, it will be like the Rainbow Coalition that has no relevance. It will be like any other collaboration that is just for the name of collaboration. So as Unity Party leaves, what parties there are that have clout that Mr. Boakai is going to form his collaboration with? It can't be the Liberty Party. The Liberty Party is divided. Cummings has his side and Boakai has his side. Of course, it can be the ANC because they can't get along now. Oh, he's betting on, ALP, Uri's party. What's there? So where else is going to go? And now it will be like a Unity Party, a certified corrupt political party in Liberia, will now be forming a collaboration. I'm sensing that many people might want to stay away from that collaboration that will coronate Mr. Boakai, because number one, of Boakai's lack of leadership in any shape and form, the deficiency of financial standing or support, and more so the narrative that will be difficult for any collaboration that Unity Party will be in and be headed by the Unity Party. The CDC will say, oh, Unity Party is coming back. The corrupt Unity Party is coming back. The Unity Party that could not renovate the executive mansion, despite putting 10 million in the budget for over 12 years, for over 10 years. That Unity Party is coming back. The Unity Party that bankrupt no car, that Unity Party is coming back. If you look at Unity Party throughout 12 years did not revitalize, did not transform any sector in our country. If you think I'm lying, go and look. The educational system, in the man's own words, the winning side of the Unity Party is Ellen Johnson's win. But that Ellen Johnson selling the winning side, the side that has a sense of direction, the side that knows what it wants and gets it and knows how to get it, even that side will fail us miserably. Education system was a mess. They left us with a healthcare system that became a death trap. Don't listen to any lies they will tell you. We renovated Phoebe and this, that. Don't listen to those lies. Those hospitals that they are talking about were practically of no importance to our people. If they were, they should be now. The roads they talk about, where are the roads? Electricity, that other sector, the energy sector, a disaster. We don't have stable electricity in our country today. After 12 years of being in power, a Boakai, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf term. So if you look at all of the sectors, road connectivity, zero. The fight against corruption, they fail. A move from corruption will be enemy number one to corruption becoming a vampire, and Ellen admitting that we failed or we lost the war on corruption. So what can the Unity Party boast of? Other than a recitation from maybe Mr. George Lobo, a recitation from folks in the Unity Party that they build few roads, that the airport, come on. almost about 60% of these projects were not completed by the Unity Party. After 12 years, they could not complete about, if not 50 to 60% of these projects. And these are the projects President Weah is completing now, and he's looking good. So the Unity Party will have a difficult narrative against, say, President Weah in the 2023 election. So, Ansony, you are confusing us, somebody will say. Oh, Unity Party will mean something if we're in the CPP, but will not be able to do anything when it leaves the CPP. So why are you confusing us, Ansony? I'm not confusing you. I'll make things simple for you. There is something we call salvage. Salvage is to bring something to an appreciable state. Salvage is to fix something and make it better. The CPP has salvaged the Unity Party because the CPP was a collaboration that had some quote-unquote by Liberian standard, some parties in there that people could trust. The Liberty Party, you can say anything about Liberty Party now. I'm on record for saying it's a disgraced and damaged party right now. But throughout, the Liberty Party has been one of Liberia's respectable party or respected party. The ANC came too. And we can also say the ANC has managed, despite, Mr. Cummings, blunders here and there, something that I've, talked about so succinctly, blunders here and there. But they, as a party, or the ANC as a party, has been building. In fact, to the ANC credit, first time going into election, 112,000 votes. URE couldn't do it. The Liberian Action, LPP, Tipote Party couldn't do it. They couldn't even win 2%. But coming at 7%. So that was a plus politically. So these two parties coming to the Unity Party to form a collaboration has salvaged the terrible records of the Unity Party. The narrative would have been a little better. But now the Unity Party standing alone, it would be like the emperor is naked in the middle for everybody to see how ugly it is, that it stings with corruption, that it has let the Liberian people down after 12 years ruled, and they want to come back to do what? To bring back the fabulous salary for its officials, to bring back the signing of contractual agreements that were classified as bookers, not in the interest of the Liberian people. Is that why they're coming back again? That is the narrative the CDC will be making against a Boakai-Unity Party ticket. So, folks, the fundamental destruction that has been done and that's going to hurt the Unity Party and Mr. Boakai is the trust that they have betrayed. The promises made by Boakai that he has betrayed. He's saying bye-bye to the CPP. When he's running alone now, the narrative will be, oh, Mr. Boakai told us he squandered opportunity. He is squanderer of opportunities in chief. He's coming by to squander another opportunities. Mr. Boakai on record again that when the Unity Party was in charge, the Unity Party was not focusing on implementation, Boakai onwards, and that they were focusing on PowerPoint presentation. So they are coming back to play emphasis on PowerPoint presentation again. Mr. Boakai own words, I was a race car and I was parked. And yet, the checks were all being collected. So the goal here is to come back and collect some checks again and not do the business of the Liberian people. Mr. Boakai has failed us. Mr. Boakai has destroyed the trust and the hope of the Liberian people. As an elderly statesman, we are told he is. As a man who has the track record of resolving issues, as he told us, why can he now fulfill his own words, stand like a man and not be a boy? Because only boys can resolve issues. Men resolve issues. Men do not run away from conflict. And that is what I'm here. I'm not running away from this conflict. This is a difficult position. This is a difficult discussion. As we speak, some people are calling me all manners of names. That's why I don't look at the comments. And the main thing is, I like when people persecute me. I like when people hold me accountable. Because I do that to leaders, men and women who control their homes. I come and hold them accountable in the public space with no fear, but also with no disrespect. I do not disrespect them. So where do we go now, Uncle Joe? You saying bye-bye to the CPP? You are in court. The case is in court and you walk away. You believe the framework document was altered. I believe there were changes made to the document. I believe changes were made to the document. It is that document that registered the CPP. With that document, Mr. Boakai, you did feed candidates in the CPP. You celebrated the victories. When the CPP was certified, Mr. Boakai, you celebrated, Nyomble celebrated, DeLon celebrated. If the alteration, if the document is altered, as we are made to believe, that means there is not a CPP. That means there's not a CPP because it is the document that actually constitutionally register the CPP as a political institution. So all candidates that ran on the CPP ticket that won, in lawyers say when it's not done legally, it's not done at all. Can you now muster the courage? Saying you believe that the document was altered, that all candidates, their election be nullified, and if I can borrow Nyomble Kanga Lawrence words, we can go to status quo ante. Can we do that? Mr. Boakai has no interest in that. He wants to enjoy the political victories of a CPP registration, of the CPP framework document. He wants to enjoy all that. But he does not want to follow the CPP framework that calls for primary. He's walking away. Now, earlier I said Mr. Boakai is not a leader. Mr. Boakai knows that the Lofa County Senator-elect, J. Brandon Samukai, won his seat overwhelmingly with a landslide in Lofa County, Mr. Boakai's county. I told you Mr. Boakai has never stood for anything. He's a yes sir, yes man kind of person, not leader. He's a bureaucrat. Everything that Mr. Boakai has had in terms of job is being handed out to him. He was picked as a VP. So this is a unique opportunity for Mr. Boakai to show leadership, and he's running away. Another unique opportunity I was talking about is the issue with Lofa County. This is Mr. Boakai's county. This is the only county he won in the going election. His people of Lofa are not being represented in the Liberian Senate. Mr. Boakai knows that case is a political case. The CDC, in a wicked manner, cleverly trying to deny Lofa County to get seated, and is doing it to piss the Unity Party up, to show that it has political muscles. Mr. Boakai has never uttered a single word. The man who has the track record of resolving issues. That also proves my point that the man has never stood for anything in his life. My county is being denied representation on political grounds, and I don't have a single political statement to make. The seat has been declared empty. It was announced by the Senate. They informed NEC, the National Election Commission. Mr. Boakai has nothing to say. Absolutely nothing to say. Mr. Boakai would not even call a press conference to speak for Lofa. A leader, when his people are being denied, will speak. Martin Luther King will not say Adolibai when blacks will be persecuted and discriminated in the United States. Muhammad Gandhi will not sit by when the British were treating Indians. He will lead a peaceful protest for the liberation of his people. Dr. King and other leaders, like Reverend Al Shelton, these leaders could not sit by when their people were being mistreated. They stood their ground, they marched, they protested. My understanding is Mr. Boakai is a deacon. The news is Martin Luther King was a preacher. He stood for his people. Even, what's this guy named? Footballer Cabinet. I hope I pronounce it well. Cabinet will not sit by. Every time he turns on the TV, he sees that blacks are being wrongly treated, unfairly, racism on the increase. He put his football career on the ground and will kneel. My understanding is that today he's not on the football field. And he has no regret whatsoever for standing for his people. Those of you who say Mr. Boakai is a leader, show me where and when he has ever eaten leadership. And when somebody appoints you, you sit in an executive chair and be swinging around. The board of directors made decision and then you follow the decision. Eating leader is by somebody paid you to be their vice president. In the case of Boakai, Elliot will say, "Oh, represent me in Japan." Let the Ministry of Education write a statement that Boakai will deliver. Represent me in the United States. This is the statement that you're going to deliver. And you just go and read it and walk away. Represent me at the United Nations. This is the statement you're going to read. You think that is leadership? That is not leadership. Leadership is when you are in charge and you have eyes and the vision to see what needs to be done and how it can be done, and delegating responsibilities to individuals who will execute it. That is leadership. Mr. Boakai has been head of the Unity Party. The Unity Party is like a cutthroat chicken with no sense of direction. He has to be pulled by Ure and Costa and others to see that he needs to lead the CPP. This is not his decision. So going back to the Lofa issue that I was speaking about, where is Boakai? This man cannot fight for his country's representation, and you think he's going to fight for Liberia? How is he going to do it? All right, the CPP thing has been chaotic. So let me be fair to Mr. Boakai here. Cummings will not attend meetings in protest. He too will not be man to go into the meeting. He too will not be man to discuss the issues, to find resolutions. One press statement after the other, excuses, letters, complaining, and whining. That's all they do. These two men will not come together to agree. They won't do it. So let me not just beat on Boakai alone. Let me be the fair guy I have always been and will always be. So Mr. Boakai has never been a leader. Yes, the CPP has been chaotic. But leaders or a leader will stand in the midst of chaos to find a solution that works. The solution for making president, we are a one-term president, was tested. It was proven to work. That is the CPP. Because it's in conflict today, does not mean it won't work. But Mr. Boakai, not being a leader, has chosen to walk away. He does not have any track record resolving issues, not in any shape, never. Never believe any lie that you will be told about Mr. Boakai's ability to solve any conflict. The conflict of Lofa County, Mr. Boakai can solve it. The conflict of CPP, Mr. Boakai can solve it. The conflict in the Unity Party, Mr. Boakai can solve it. The conflict between Boakai and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Mr. Boakai can solve it. So where is the leadership? Where is the leadership? So the press conference was a disaster. Mr. Boakai had looked so uninterested. He never wanted to be there. Mr. Boakai delivered his statement just about around 5 minutes. The problem in the CPP has been serious. It needed a serious leader who will address those issues in detail and comprehensively. He came rushing to the camera, looking weak. He never took a single question. So what is the difference between you and Joshua? Joshua can't take questions from the press. Since he became president, he has never had a press conference. Mr. Boakai we were told he was going to have a press conference. He was going to address the nation. He came. He read a pitiful statement filled with blames and bye-bye. And never took a single question. Mo Ali warned the people, we're not going to take any question seriously. It matters. The matter in the CPP has been serious. And Mr. Boakai needed to take questions, but Mr. Boakai will not do it. So there you see Mr. Boakai with the paper in your hand, reading. The political queen, Yombly, is sitting there. waiting for something that we all know. Benina Ure in the back end there, tilting. He has made decision that just go and read a statement, let Unity Party get out. I got out long time so that we can go. Mr. Boakai was not interested. It's like he never wanted to be there because that is not something coming from him. Mr. Boakai knows that his path is narrow and near impossible for victory. If he does not have the ANC and the Liberty Party behind him, living with a divided Liberty Party and a non-existent ALP is a recipe. It's a recipe for failure, and Mr. Boakai could feel it in his spine. But he had to do it because he's not man. He can't say no to his handlers. It was Ure's decision that Boakai is implementing. And you look at the Unity Party. Who are the leaders in the Unity Party? All I see is Mo Ali, Ami Moda, who is not a politician. I don't know what brought this guy to politics in the first place. I mean, our country has turned to something else. It is his right. Don't get me wrong. But he's been doing well. What political bearing does he carry? I don't see it. So, that is Mr. Boakai at the bicentennial. Congratulations to Mr. Boakai. I said on one other talk show it was a good thing that the leaders attended, and Mr. Boakai too attended. But as usual, man, as usual, eyes closed, meditating, and praying for Liberia. Mr. Boakai, prayer will not solve Liberia's problems. Those who are the fanatics of Comrade Jesus, those who are fanatics of the Bible and Christianity, spare me your outrage because you do not understand God and you do not understand the Bible. Prayers will not save Liberia. Liberia for Jesus Christ Crusade, Pastor this, Bishop this, everybody have prayed. Liberia is still struggling. What helps Liberia is work. What helps Liberia is leadership. What helps Liberia is solutions. Now your prayers. For the Bible told me that faith without works is dead. Faith without work is dead. Prayer is like a faith. Father, I believe in you, but if you don't do anything, it will not work. Folks, this is how I will come to the end of this presentation. The statement was disastrous. The delivery was poor. It was embarrassing. It was not like we've seen before from Boakai. He never wanted to be there. He has taken a path that he's not sure of. He did not show us the leadership that he told us he will provide. And so may I close with this, folks. Let me leave you with the words of Mr. Boakai that he, again, like he will always do, squander. Number one, Mr. Boakai squandered this promise. We will not betray our country. Your covenants will not be disappointed, and he did. The collaborating political parties will be institutionalized. Mr. Boakai will not fulfill this, he squandered it. We will entrench our feet so deep that victory will be the only option. Mr. Boakai squandered that. Don't give boys main job to do. This decision by Mr. Boakai is like handling President Weah, who he referred to as a boy, another term, and not the one term that he is promising President Weah. I have the track records of resolving issues. Mr. Boakai squandered this opportunity to resolve issue. This track record he said he has, he does not have it. And so finally, Mr. Boakai was speaking. My eloquent silence in the face of these internal wranglings and exchanges strengthened my courage. No, your silence did not strengthen your courage. If your courage, Mr. Boakai, was strengthened or were strengthened by your eloquent silence, you have come out to speak boldly to the issues. You will come out, Mr. Boakai, to speak boldly to the issues. And so, folks, as I take leave of you, Liberia is in a difficult place. President Weah is a happy man. The CPP is a letdown. No one knows what's going to happen. If you want a percentage from me right now, currently with the way the variables are, President Weah is in a much better place. He was in a difficult position when the CPP was together, but now, no. To the point that he got emboldened to say he would deliver a landslide victory. That is how good he feels right now. And it's all because the elder in the room will not be the leader he's supposed to be. It's obvious now. He has never been one anyway. So, folks, Boakai says bye-bye to the CPP, and Focus on Liberia will be conducting a funeral service of the CPP, and it will be announced. My name is Ansony Sieh. I brought you another analytical, balanced, fair, biting, unapologetic edition of the Hour of Politics. And here I Focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until I catch you again. And again, when I do, with another edition of the Hour of Politics, I'm Ansony Sieh saying to you, let Mr. Boakai, bye-bye, CPP.
We all Liberia.